Jack Lucas, that's the name of the real-life Captain America, except that there was also Audie Murphy, who was also a real-life Captain America. I mean, you probably don't believe me, but what makes Captain America? A man too short and too skinny when he enlists, so he gets rejected? Yeah. Audie Murphy was 160 centimeters, or 5'5", and about 50 kilograms when he tried to enlist to the military and was rejected. A real Captain America needs to have insane bravery. Yeah. Jack Lucas threw himself on top of a grenade to save his brothers in arms without a super serum and without a vibranium shield. How about superhuman feats? Captain America needs that. Yeah. I think Audie Murphy fighting against 200 Germans for 1 hour alone after ripping the gun off of a burning tank to shoot them with, I think that qualifies as superhuman. And the crazy thing is that both of these Captain Americas, they were teenagers while they did all this. 17 to be exact. So before we get to Audie Murphy's ridiculous 1v200, let's kick things off by talking about America's teenage war hero, Jack. Jack Lucas was born on Valentine's Day, February 14th, 1928, meaning his parents Archie and Margaret Lucas. They got real busy on some day in May of 1927 when Archie gave Margaret that look. When you give me that look, then the penny's coming off. And if you know your history, you'll know that in 1929, the Great Depression was going down. And if you don't know your history, Great Depression does not mean everybody was running around like this. The Great Depression was caused by the stock market crash of October 1929, and the economy was in shambles. So everybody that wasn't super rich was super broke, and was basically running around like this. Enter Jack Lucas, born into one of these broke families. And what do you do for fun when you have no money? You read combat manuals and memorize rifle specs. Duh. And since Papa Lucas died when Jack was 10, Mama Lucas single-mommed it until she could send him to a boarding school, the Edwards Military Institute to be exact, when Jack was 14. The plan was for him to stay there, but Jack didn't memorize all this military data for nothing. School to him was practice. Jack was ready for the real game. What was he still need practice for?
We're talking about practice, man. I mean, how silly is that, man? We're talking about practice.
So Jack dropped out of military school at age 14 and went to the big leagues, enlisted in the army by forging his mother's signature and claiming to be 17.
I'm gonna need to see some identification.
Really? Makes me feel young again.
Some sources say he was 5'8" or 173 and weighed a solid 180 pounds or 82 kilograms at age 14. And that's how he got past the inspector. Others say he only grew that big at age 16, but either way, he managed to become a US Marine at age 14. I never want to hear that Naruto and the other teenage anime heroes saving the world at that age is unrealistic. I never want to hear that ever again. So now, while Jack was being trained to kill Nazis and waiting for his first pubes, he couldn't wait to put his newly learned deadly skills into action, but he was constantly kept on guard duty, and with the patience of a 14-year-old, he got frustrated. He kept nagging his superiors to send him into combat, and when they repeatedly refused, he proved that he was mature enough by stealing a car, driving to Washington, D.C., to personally ask President Roosevelt to send him into battle. And a little known fact that historians only recently discovered is that when the president saw this 14-year-old, he was so impressed by his determination that he told Jack about a secret program the US had going on. They had developed a drug, a serum, that would enhance a soldier's muscles and give them abilities that almost seem superhuman. The only problem is that this serum, this drug, it reacted best with still developing bodies, but where are you going to find a soldier willing to fight in a war that is that young still? Enter Jack. I'm just messing with you. That never happened. Jack never even made it to the president. The military caught up to him and punished him for his foolishness with more guard duty and keeping him even further away from the action. Jack, though, was very evidently an anime main character before anime main characters even existed, so he couldn't be kept in side quests forever. The main quest was calling. He snuck on board of the USS Duel, a military ship set to join active combat in the Pacific. And once on the ship, Jack revealed his true identity and age, and to whomever tried to tell him to go back to the base, he told them,
"Don't walk away from me, Seth! I've already walked away too much!"
Truth is that yes, the ship simply was too far along to turn turn around. And also the military, the Marines, they knew they needed every possible rifleman, even if he was a teenager. And so at the age of 16 in 1945, Jack Lucas was officially a US Marine set for combat, ready to catch a body before he even had a body count. And his first battle, man, will be one for the ages. Attentive viewers will notice that this is just a week after his birthday. So Jack had just turned 17 and was fighting with the 1st Battalion, 26th Marines, 5th Marine Division. The US was launching an assault on Iwo Jima, which was a strategic airbase that America needed for its bombers to reach Japan. So the Americans were fighting over control of this tiny speck of an island with thousands of Americans dying in battle against the Japanese resistance. And among these fighting men was 17-year-old Jack Lucas, who was advancing on the Japanese with this unit of 3 other soldiers when they spotted Japanese soldiers hiding in a pillbox, which is a small concrete blockhouse, like a mini bunker, that houses a stationary gun. Basically means death to anyone that walks in front of it. So Jack and his men quickly jumped into parallel trench for cover, but the Japanese had spotted them as well, and Jack and his men found themselves in that cover with 2 live grenades sent right after them. In a space that tight, there was no way to evade the explosives, and heavy casualties were guaranteed, if not for 17-year-old Jack, who immediately threw himself on one of the grenades and then pulled the other one under his body as well. The grenades went off under him, and after the dust settled, all of Jack's brothers in arms were unharmed. He had saved all their lives by sacrificing his own body. His right arm was shredded, his lung collapsed, his thigh almost completely blown off, and a total of over 200 pieces of shrapnel had torn apart his body. Yet somehow he survived. Jack survived, which was an absolute miracle, but the doctors were certain that that's as far as miracles go, and that Jack Lucas would never walk again. So then 6 months later, 17-year-old Jack Lucas walked into the White House to receive a Medal of Honor from President Truman, and when Truman handed him the medal, Jack Lucas simply said, "Sir, I was just doing my job."
Dog!
Aside from the Medal of Honor, Jack also received a Purple Heart and 26 surgeries to remove shrapnels from his body, and this ends the story, obviously, of this real-life Captain America who served his country until his body quite literally could not go on anymore. Oh wait, there's more. There's more, I forgot. 15 years later, 1961, Jack Lucas enlists again. This time he joined the US Army as a paratrooper. He joined the 82nd Airborne Division and went on to train as a paratrooper, and during training at Fort Bragg, his parachutes didn't deploy. And Jack Lucas slammed into the ground in free fall from 3,500 feet or 1,067 meters. A kilometer of free fall without parachutes. Yeah, and thus ends the story of his military service. Not his life, his military service. Are you kidding? Not his life. Of course the guy survived this fall. In fact, he barely had any injuries. Come on, what are we talking about here? This is Jack Lucas, aka... At first, I wanted to insert like a Chuck Norris type joke about gravity versus Jackie, but I couldn't think of one, so feel free to give me your best one in the comments. And come on, what? He survived. Barely any injuries. 1 kilometer. What a legend, man. It was like in the movie Crank. Now, Jack was finally able to retire and live a quiet, chill life with his second wife, and they lived happily ever after. Yeah, no, because his wife hired a hitman to kill Jack. She wanted his life insurance money, so his wife legit hired a hitman to kill her husband, Jack Lucas. But Jack Lucas just disarmed the hitman, slapped him, and told him to run away and never come back. Unsurprisingly, Jack then divorced this wife, but in 1983, he actually did find love in his 4th wife, Ruby Lucas, whom he married at age 55 and remained married to. Later in life, Jack became very vocal in advocating veterans' rights and PTSD awareness. He spoke at schools, conventions, took every chance to raise awareness for veterans, to make sure people understand that soldiers are human beings who need to be cared for when they return to civilian life. A fact that can be easy to forget with soldiers like Jack Lucas, who seems so superhuman. But even this real-life superhero eventually had to move on. On June 5th, 2008, at age 80, Jack Lucas lost his first and only battle, a fight against leukemia. Today, we still remember him thanks to schools, bridges, highways named after him. But I like to remember Jack Lucas as a real-life hero, the real Captain America. Yeah, but as I said in the beginning, he wasn't the only one. There was another teenage soldier that deserves the title of real Captain America, and his name is Audie Murphy. Was born on June 20th, 1925 in Kingston, Texas. Him and his family, like most of the kids who would grow up to be soldiers in World War II, also suffered through the Great Depression. In fact, he suffered through it with 11 siblings, and to make things worse, their father abandoned the family with its 11 children when Audie was 5, and his mother died when Audie was 16. And what does a future Captain America do when the father abandons the family when you're 5 years young, when you're so poor you can barely afford shoes and a meal? He drops out of school in the 5th grade, lies about his age to get a job at a radio repair shop to make some money to support his siblings. Not just that, young Audie also went hunting to feed his family. That alone makes Audie Murphy a real-life superhero in my eyes, but we're only getting started. Then, his mother died of pneumonia when he was 16, so this hero decides that it's time to make the world a better place for his siblings to grow up in. So at age 17, Audie Murphy enlisted in the Navy, and he got rejected. Then the Marines rejected him, and the paratroopers rejected him also. The boy was 5'5", which is like 165 centimeters, and he barely tipped 50 kilograms or 110 pounds on the scales. So his enlistment was quite literally this.
I was hoping I could be a
Sorry, son.
But then, just like the captain, Audie Murphy proved that he's built different. He enlisted again and again and again and again, simply so persistent that they eventually let him join because, man, they thought that at worst they would grant him his wish to let him die in service of his country. And little did they know what would happen next. Audie Murphy and his squad are ambushed by Italian troops. The smart move would be to flee, accept casualties, and defeat to fight another day. But 5'5" Audie charged the enemy position on a solo run, and the ones he didn't take out with hand grenades, he mowed down with his rifle. And the next year, also in Italy, Americans are trying to push through the German-Italian lines. And it's a game of deadly inches. Audience men, they're stuck in a foxhole for weeks constantly under heavy bombardment. Grenades and gunfire feel almost like a relief in comparison to the bombs. And then Audie contracts malaria, which is not just a reason to leave the front lines, it's recommended to leave because most people cannot function with malaria. Audie is not most people. Dude drags his body across the battlefield to go on a kill streak and break the stalemate so his unit can advance. The Americans are stopped in their tracks by a German machine gun nest raining fire on them. Everybody in Audie's unit is injured, including Audie himself. The unit is scattered, separated. The medics try to evacuate people. They tell Audie that with his injuries, he also needs to be evacuated. But what does Audie tell them?
I can do this all day.
Man, he goes full Captain Stupid American mode, storms into the enemy bunker housing that enemy machine gun, and takes it down all alone to save his man. And yet, somehow, all of this pales in comparison to what came next. It is snowing, it is cold, the American soldiers are wet, they're freezing, they're miserable. But that alone, in that war, would be a welcome picnic on a winter day. The real issue was that they received intel that the Germans are planning to attack their position with some serious numbers. 6 German tanks, over 200 German infantrymen that would outnumber the Americans 5-1. Only a miracle could get them out of this, but luckily, you don't need miracles when you got Audie Murphy. He told his men to fall back. I got this. Then he climbed onto a burning enemy M10 tank destroyer they had previously taken down, grabbed the burning vehicle's 38 kilogram 50 caliber machine gun, and started mowing down the German troops. I don't know what this looked like in real life. I don't. But this is the first thing that came to mind for me. And the Rambo scene is cute compared to Audie Murphy doing it while standing on a tank that is literally on fire and has ammunition exploding inside, standing there facing over 200 German soldiers alone while yelling coordinates into his field radio to ensure the safety of his retreating unit. When it was over, it wasn't over because of the wounds Audie suffered, or because he got tired, or because he received backup. When it was over because the 200 Germans with their 6 tanks gave up their advance. They were held off by 5'5" Audie Murphy, who personally killed or wounded over 50 of them.
Damn.
Now, Audie finally agreed to go to the hospital and get treated for his many wounds and the hardships his body and mind somehow managed to endure. For his military service, Audie was awarded the Medal of Honor, the Distinguished Service Cross, 2 Silver Stars, a Bronze Star V device for valor in combat, 3 Purple Hearts, the French Legion of Honor, the Belgian Croix de Guerre, a lot of campaign ribbons, and well, overall there was 33 awards and decorations. It's insane. He's also unofficially credited with killing a total of 240 enemy soldiers despite being severely wounded 3 times, on top of contracting malaria, and by the time this war veteran and war hero returned home, he was only 20 years young. Really puts life into perspective. Now a war hero, young Audie Murphy found himself on the cover of Life magazine. And of course, this guy also had the Captain America looks. The dude was so handsome and so charming that Hollywood discovered him. Now, for most people, all of Audie's military accomplishments, they're legendary and more than most people accomplish in several lifetimes. But Audie Murphy then went on to have an entire Hollywood career. He starred in 44 movies, and not as some extra or some terrible actor. His movie, To Hell and Back, an adaptation of his own autobiography where he played himself. That movie was the highest grossing film Universal had ever made at the time it was released. Audie Murphy was a movie star. That man genuinely lived 2 legendary lives, and he wasn't even 40 years old yet. Unfortunately, outside of the military and the silver screen, he wasn't able to win his battles like it's New Game Plus. In fact, his personal life is the reason people like Jack Lucas made it a mission later in life to help veterans. Audie Murphy heavily suffered and struggled from PTSD, or battle fatigue, as they called it back then. Audie had nightmares that kept him from sleeping, and when he did sleep, he did it with a loaded gun under his pillow, often isolating himself for weeks, or sleeping in a barn because he was worried he might hurt someone in his sleep. And one person that got to experience that very worry was his wife and fellow actress, Wanda Hendricks. After marrying Audie in 1949, they went through a difficult relationship as Audie suffered hallucinations and PTSD episodes that got so bad that he allegedly once held her at gunpoint. The woman feared for her life while Audie was fighting for his, so they divorced. And at the time, there was barely anyone to lean on for veterans suffering from PTSD, hence why Jack Lucas was so vocal about it. Generally, you were just expected to suck it up, be a man. And this is where Audie Murphy stepped up once again. He became a pioneer that used his fame and status to openly speak about PTSD and mental health long before it was accepted. This war hero and Hollywood star talked about his mental health issues because he knew, who's gonna tell a guy that mowed down 200 Germans with a 35-kilogram tank gun to just suck it up? And then in 1951, it seems he found a sliver of peace, or at least a happy place in the darkness. He married Pamela Archer, and they had 2 sons and remained married until death parted them too soon. At age 45, on May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy died when his private plane crashed into a mountain in Virginia during bad weather. Audie Murphy was laid to rest at Arlington National Cemetery, where he was buried with full military honors. And that's his life. Ever the movie, it really ended as dramatic as he often lived it. And even though Audie Murphy was a war hero and a real Captain America, we have to remember that he was a real human being, and that the war left behind real scars and trauma that he and those he loved suffered through. I love covering these war stories and its heroes, but I wish they didn't exist, because at the end of the day, nobody wins in war. So let's not forget the sacrifices people like Audie made, people like Jack made, so that we live in better times. And let's do our most to not repeat mistakes of the past, to say no to fanatics that would see the world burn for their greed, just like the people that caused the wars of the past, the wars that these two were heroes in. Let's strive to maintain the unity and peace that Audie Murphy and Jack Lucas sacrificed so much for. Thank you for watching this video. I'll see you next Sunday.